everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Daily Grind. I am doing a review on the patterns for Pirates Kelli's dress, which I was supposed to do about 2 weeks ago, but I got really sick after Valentine's Day and I haven't been able to do it. So this right here, if you followed along with the previous episode, you know that I was looking at two different knit fabrics and I had to do a knit stretch test, and I also did a video on that. I'll link it right down here. I'll put it in the video as well as in the comments below on how to determine stretch percentage for knits. So I worked with this dress right here, this fabric, the silvery fabric, and the Kelli dress gathers at the bottom of the bodice and at the top of the skirt. And you can see a better example right here in the pattern from Patterns for Pirates. Now what I did is I made this and I got lazy, and my laziness turned right around and bit me in the butt when I was working on this dress, because it took me a whole extra evening to get this to fit. Now you can see me modeling it right here, which is fine. It looks like it just, you know, fits me like a glove and molds to my figure. But it did not start out that way, because what I found is, although the pattern is made for someone who is 5'6", and I am 5'6", the proportions are totally normal on the pattern, but my proportions are very odd, because I have the legs of someone who is about 5'9" or 5'10", and I have the torso from someone who is about 5'1", 5'2". So put this together and you have this very awkward Barbie doll proportion. So I had to do a lot of alterations in the midsection of the dress at that waistline seam. And I'm going to show you on paper very soon the problems and issues that I had. And not only did I have a problem in the midsection, but because I'm short torso, that actually created a problem in my bum area too. And I'll show you how that was resolved by the alterations that I did. If I would have done these alterations beforehand, it would have been so much easier. But sometimes, you know, you think, I can get away with it. Well, I couldn't. So let's dive into what I did with this pattern to get it to fit, the alterations that I had to do for a short torso. And if you have a long torso, it's going to be the opposite. So just keep that in mind. And if you have an average torso, well, lucky you, you can probably make this pattern and it's going to fit you to a T right from the get-go. All right, so let's look down here and let's see what alterations I did.
In order to illustrate this, I have cut out a sample of the pattern and a sample of me. But the pattern itself, the Kelli dress, is made for someone who is 5 feet 6 inches tall. I am 5 feet 6 inches tall, but my proportions are very different. So my waist is higher and my hips are higher. I am short from my crotch line to my shoulders, but I have very long legs. I'll say it again because this cannot be emphasized enough. Whenever you're making a pattern for the first time or you're making a bodycon dress, make sure you extend your seam allowances on the side seams and the sleeve seam to 1 inch. So on the Patterns for Pirates uses a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this dress. And I cut out the pattern a 1/2 inch beyond that cutting line so that when I baste the dress together to test the fit, I base my seam at 1 inch. If it's too tight, then I have a lot of wiggle room to let out these two side seams to mold to my figure better. And that was critical because you can see right here, the fullness of the pattern is below where I need the fullness. When I put the pattern on top of my figure and not doing that short torso alteration, you can see how my curves do not match the pattern curves. And that's going to be an issue because it ends up very, very tight because I need more space in here. My hips are higher. And on the back, it also created a problem because not only did I need extra space here, but I also had extra length in the torso on the back of the pattern because I ended up with folds of fabric going across. Now, folds that are horizontal can mean that a garment is too tight. But in my case, I could pinch out the fabric vertically. I just had too much fabric in the back. So on the back, I even had to do a sway back tuck in addition to taking out 1 inch off of the bodice and taking 1 inch off of the bottom. So once I took that 1 inch off, it ended up that the pattern then matched my curves. But I'm telling you, what a pickle I was in. Thinking I could save time by not doing the alterations, I did not save any time. I just created a whole lot more work for myself, and that shouldn't have happened. But I did alter the pattern for my next go around, whenever that is. I also had this problem on the Patterns for Pirates Pencil Skirt. The pencil skirt was the first pattern I made, one of the first patterns from Patterns for Pirates, and the curves did not match my figure. So what was happening is the waist was trying to hike up to my curves. It was trying to find its spot on my body where it matched. And you can see right here, when I put the pattern on top of my figure, this is why this skirt was trying to hike up to match my curves every time I wore it. And it's very annoying, and it just didn't dawn on me at first. And like I said, fitting is a process. It was the first time that I think I ever worked with double brush poly, and I thought I could get away with it because it was a very stretchy knit, but I could not. So what I eventually did was I removed the waistband from my skirt, and I took 2 inches out and then just restitched that waistband seam so that the skirt matched my curves. It's just amazing. When everything is in alignment, things just fit so much better. And it's well worth your time to do these adjustments beforehand. But when I started working with Patterns for Pirates, you can take measurements, but sometimes you work with knits that have vertical stretch and horizontal stretch. So it's just really tough to say what exactly, like how much to remove, how much to add in. But ultimately, I got my Kelli dress to fit me like a glove, and I really think it fit perfectly.
Ultimately, I got a great fit on this dress, and I'm really happy about it. But in retrospect, I did not save myself any time. Do your alterations first before you cut out the pattern. And always use 1-inch seam allowances. Add that extra 1/2 inch or the extra 3/8 inch, whatever your pattern says, add it to make the seam allowance 1 inch, because that will really help you out if you find that there is an area that is too tight. And that actually happened on this dress. So until next time, I'm going to review the Sinclair Patterns Bolero jacket in the next video and tell you how that went as well. All right, take care and happy sewing.